It is one Friday closer to death, and it's not one Friday closer to COVID chaos for the NFL. COVID chaos arrived today. And this one surprised me because, Myles, I would have sworn and I would have bet and I would have lost a lot of money on the notion that the NFL would not postpone a single game because that was their position. We're not postponing games. When you postpone a game, the problem is there's a chance that the issue is going to get worse, not better. But I think the fact that they've changed the protocols to make it easier for guys to come back, they decided if we bump these games by 2 days each, 3 games, if you haven't heard by now, the Raiders at the Browns for Saturday has been moved to Monday at 5 o'clock Eastern, and 2 Sunday games, Washington at the Eagles and the Seahawks at the Rams, have been moved to Tuesday night, simultaneously beginning at 7 Eastern. That, I believe, coupled with the current and potential immediate future revisions to the protocols, will result in guys being available, not more guys being out. And that's one of the reasons why the league did it. They think that when they get to Monday and Tuesday, they'll have more than enough guys able to play. Guys who currently aren't able to play come Monday and Tuesday night.
Yeah, listen, and we've been talking about this, I think, the last couple days, it seems like, but especially over the course of today. I mean, I certainly would not have thought when we got off the air earlier today that by the time our second show is starting, that the entire world would have changed as much as it has basically in the last 8 hours. And so I think the biggest thing that is clear now is that the protocols that worked for July 2021 no longer work for December 2021. And that's because we're almost dealing with a sort of a different virus, right? This new variant, the Omicron variant, has just come in and it has spread like wildfire. And it has meant that things that were not happening before are now happening. We've never seen upwards of 20 plus players on a team, especially teams that are almost fully vaccinated. Browns came out today and said, almost everybody, I think it was everybody that has tested positive is a vaccinated person, right? So when you have a situation like this where people thought that they were doing the right things and all of a sudden it just pops up and everybody, it seems like, is coming up positive for COVID, something has drastically changed. And that's why the protocols have got to change along with them, because you've got people who are asymptomatic and feel fine and still are testing positive. And it's like, well, wait a minute, what in the world happened? And it's just one of these crazy things where the NFL has basically just totally changed over the last 5 days. And that's why I really think these protocols have got to change with it.
Well, and the union, to its credit, pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed to get the league to postpone the games. The league was not going to do it. We reported last night that the union aggressively pushing not just to postpone Raiders-Browns, but also to press pause on the entire season for a week. Now, that was never going to happen. Sometimes you have to make the extreme ask to get the thing that you are more likely to get. But even then, I didn't think that the league was going to do it. I really didn't. And I respect the fact that the league, even if it had to be kicking and screaming. And, there was a tweet earlier today that the league wasn't going to postpone the games, but it's getting pressure to do it. And I observed, why is it that the league only does the right thing when it's getting pressure to do the right thing? It would be nice if it could figure out the right thing without someone pressuring it to do the right thing. But it did the right thing. It postponed the games. And the commissioner, in a memo that was sent not that long ago, told all teams that the expectation is these games will be played at the rescheduled times and will not be moved to a later date or time during the week of December 20. From the outset of the coronavirus pandemic, our focus has been to play our games in a safe and responsible way, consistent with the best available medical and public health advice, based on protocols jointly developed and implemented with the NFL Players Association. So, makes sense from the perspective of player safety, as it relates to player safety, not just from the virus, but from the standpoint of thrusting guys into the fray who may not have any business being on a roster, frankly, and not be prepared as other players would be. But also it enhances competitive integrity. That's one of the things that the union was pushing. The league, for all its talk about integrity of the game, decided, hey, we don't care. Just like last year when the Broncos were told to go forward without a quarterback. Now, that was a different situation because their quarterbacks reportedly put their tracking devices in the four corners of a room and huddled together to watch film, and they got busted. But still, go forward without a quarterback. And we thought teams would be told, go forward if you only have 35 healthy guys, 40 healthy guys, whatever the magic number is. The league won't say what the magic number is, but the attitude was go forward. The union was the one pushing competitive integrity, Myles. And, of course, no good deed goes unpunished. But you got three teams out there in the Raiders, the Eagles, and the Seahawks that were thinking, we're going to get a win here against an overmatched team. Those teams are pissed now, frankly, that they're not getting the opportunity to try to beat these other teams when they're down.
Yeah, and you know what? Especially if you're the Raiders, I really understand the frustration that's coming from them because they're in their facility. They're about 26 hours from kickoff, and then all of a sudden they're told, actually, guys, we're moving the game to Monday. So, don't come on these buses. Don't get on the plane to Cleveland. I saw reporters tweeting out that they were in the airport and got off their planes to go to Cleveland because they don't want to spend an unnecessary amount of time in a hotel than they have to. Right? I understand why that is really frustrating, but I think that we have to at least kind of think about how this came about, right? And I saw Charles Robinson of Yahoo use this phrase where it's uncontrolled spread despite adherence to the protocols is what got these games postponed, right? It's not just that they came in and they were doing whatever and, they weren't adhering to the protocols, which is why the Broncos got dinged last year, right? I mean, when the Raiders in Tampa Bay got moved out of that Sunday night football window because there were so many players that had tested positive on the Raiders offensive line. That was a different situation as well. And I think it's kind of illogical to really put our thoughts that we had about things that were going on in 2020 into 2021, given everything that is so much different about the virus that we have now, right? And how we have vaccines, how the protocols have worked over the course of the year, and frankly, how you've had these isolated incidents of a player testing positive to this point, but it's never been anything like this. So, yeah, it comes down to health and safety. It comes down to, keeping that competitive integrity and that competitive balance. And it turns out they've done the right thing. And now we've got more football games during the week.
Those tweets that we had up from KJ Wright and Casey Hayward, the idea that the Raiders would have been required to play if they were the ones going through it, I don't buy that. I really don't. I think this
Absolutely
is something
not.
that the league was going to do no matter what. Now, when it first was said that the Raiders-Browns game was going to be postponed, I heard from a cousin of mine who's a big Raiders fan saying they wouldn't do this for anybody else, and I had to tell him, well, you know what, I think they're going to do it for two others. I'll believe it when I see it. So I eventually had to show him, and I'm still not sure whether or not he believes it because, after all, this is post-truth America. But, that persecution complex is out there for Raiders fans and for Raiders players. Now,
and the point made
by KJ Wright, not KJ Wright, but Casey Hayward, I'm sure that the NFLPA president playing for the Browns didn't have any effect on these negotiations. Look, whatever team J.C. Tretter played for, I think it made it, more obvious to him by being among the roster and the members of a team that was going through the enhanced protocol and so many players testing positive, but he has an obligation no matter where he is. And I'd like to think that if he didn't play for the Browns or Washington or the Rams, he still would have been advocating aggressively for these games to be postponed. You also have leadership that is not among the player ranks that was pushing for this. If you didn't have DeMaurice Smith and his staff on board with this, it's not going to happen. So MDS, I know, has suggested that J.C. Tretter should have recused himself from these conversations. I don't even know that that's the case. Look, the bottom line is you've got enough people involved in this. This wasn't J.C. Tretter making a decision on his own. J.C. Tretter is just one of many voices, one of many people who had to craft a solution to this problem. And if it was just J.C. Tretter trying to work everything to his advantage, it wouldn't have happened. At some point along the way, somebody would have said, hey, JC, we know what you're trying to do. Nice try. Go back and get ready for the game.
Yeah, exactly. They would have told him to buzz off and go get Nick Mullins ready to play. But I think J.C. Tretter's actually been very consistent about what he feels like the NFLPA should be pushing for and how he feels like these protocols should be throughout the course of the year, right? This is not something that just came up all because, wow, the Browns have a really bad COVID situation. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Let me use my position to do something to our advantage. Like, no, because it wasn't just his team that he was advocating for. Really, I mean, he's also talking about the Rams, right? You also have Washington. So there are a lot of different elements that come into this. And so I think you're right. It's not just about him. It's about DeMaurice Smith and his staff and what they're doing. And also the NFL probably is looking at this and saying like, okay, yeah, there's some practical implications that we really need to be considerate of here. And it's not just because J.C. Tretter plays for the Browns that all three of these games got postponed.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.